So I'm here doing my second video. Consistency is key, I hear. So let's get with it. So in trying to figure out what I want to talk about in my next video, the only thing that keeps popping in my mind is the word forgiveness. Forgiveness. Easier said than done, right? Trust me, I know all about it. In fact, I am still in the process of forgiving people from my past, as well as I am probably still being forgiven on other people's behalf. Some things that they may have felt like I have done or said to them that they just don't like. So they might be in the process of forgiving me, but that's neither here nor there. We're talking about me. So in my understanding of forgiveness, I come to find out that number one, like I said, it's easier said than done, but there are multiple other things that I've learned in relationship to it that helps me get through this process of healing and forgiving and moving forward to have my most fabulous life. So I'm going to be sharing with you a few things that I've learned in regards to forgiveness, what it is, what it ain't, some of the advantages of forgiving and some of the disadvantages of forgiving, and yes, there are some, and disadvantage of not forgiving, and some advantages of not forgiving. It sounds strange, but we're gonna dive into it. So number one, wait a minute, before I get into number one, let me give you a little bit of backstory on me and forgiveness. So most of my hurts in life came when I was an adult. Not to say that I did not have any other hurts growing up and any things that need to be forgiven growing up, but the majority of things that made me have a hang up on forgiveness occurred to me when I was an adult. Some of my main hurts as an adult came from the church. Yes, the church. When I was young, just like any other family, you go through your ups and downs, divorce, fights, all kind of things go on in your family. And when you're young and you don't understand what's going on, you take it very hard, especially when your family separates and breaks up, and you just feel like you're kind of lost and wandering. So when I was around 16 years old, I ran to the church for emotional support. But after running to the church when I was 16, obviously I grew, I became an adult, and I started to give my life more over to things of God, more over to things that the church was asking of me, more over to things that, I enjoyed doing, which was, activities of discipleship, what I like to call them. But in the midst of that, the teachings you receive, the counseling you receive, the doctrine that was taught, some of it was manipulated for the purposes of the person who was teaching it, I would say. And so that led to a path of, just finding out you want to question some things. And it led to a lot of hurt because some of the people that you trusted, some of the people that you loved and you wanted to support, you come to find out that, child, they don't care nothing about you. All they want is what you can give them. And so that led me to, eventually, after many, many years, it led me to eventually chill out, take a break from church. Mind you, not God. Hello, somebody. Never will leave God, but I did end up leaving fellowshipping, participating, being active, whatever you want to call it, in the church. And I did that for several years, maybe about 4 or 5 years. I guess that's not too long, but it was long for me. So After some time, my children had grown, and two of them who stayed home at the time said, "Hey, when the last time we've been to church? We need to kind of go back to church, like looking at what's going on in the world and how people are and what's happening with politics and the government. It's a lot going on. We need to make sure that we are in right standing with God," which we were. We never left God, like I said, but we weren't participating in things of the church, things of God, and it led us to participate in other things, if you know what I mean. A little drinking, no smoking, just a little drinking, and I still drink to this day. There's nothing wrong with a little wine. Read your Bible. So yeah, but it led us to, just have a more relaxed lifestyle, not so holy in the eyes of God, not so godly. And it could be a bit of a double standard. If you knew us, you'd be like, I thought y'all was saved, but girl, I don't know now. But yeah, so we decided that, it's time for us to return back to living the standards of which we know was right. Now, just because we fell out of church, and I don't even want to say backslid, because we didn't even truly backslid. We wasn't out there wild like that. But we weren't active. We weren't participating. We weren't trying to really truly seek the will of God for our lives on a daily basis. And so it was just time for us to take a look at ourselves and say, hey, what's stopping us here? It's because of past hurts, past situations that happened with Christian people that led us to, kind of depart, not the faith, but depart being active with the church. I keep emphasizing that. So, yeah, the church is something else. Like, you deal with a lot of personalities there, and it can be difficult a lot of times, especially when you have expectations of you should be doing the Bible compared to, dang, you look just like the world. Like, if you're going to be acting like the world, I might as well be in the world myself, okay? Like, I can deal with the world better than I can deal with you, because I know how to handle the world. But you, as a believer, I expect more, and I demand more, even for myself. Like, I treat people the way I want to be treated, and the way you should be treated. Why? Because we're humans. We're fellow brothers and sisters. Why should I treat you bad? Don't make sense to me. Why should I? You know what I'm saying? Anyway, to make a long story short, yeah, I left the church. Me and my family left the church for about 4 or 5 years. We didn't attend church, but we still had faith in God. But we have now decided that it's time to return to church, because we should not allow or let anyone stop us from doing what we want to do for God. So that's why we return to church. And even though we see people that we just like, I gotta love them, it's difficult to deal with. You may have had past experiences with, and you're working on forgiving them. It's easier said than done. And so what I'm learning through the process of forgiving while moving forward in God, in Christ, is I'm learning several things. So now let's get into the list. All right, number 1, forgiveness is an everyday choice that you have to make, whether you feel like it and even when you don't. Because if you want to be in a state of peace, it's good to release all that negative energy, holding on to all that unforgiveness, all that bitterness, all that grievances. I mean, it just does something to you internally, because I know it has affected me internally, Ooh. So letting go of all that and choosing to forgive day by day is what you have to do in order to, forgiving someone. It's a daily choice. Scripture talks about, well, how many times do you have to, forgive? And Jesus replies, 70 times 70. And most people teach you that that's daily. Man, that's a lot of times you must forgive. And it's easier said than done. I keep saying that. It's easier said than done, but it's doable. So just making sure that you know that forgiving someone who has hurt you in the past, you must make that choice every day to do so. Okay? 2, understanding that just because it doesn't feel like you've forgiven someone or are in the process of forgiving someone, it doesn't mean that it's not occurring. I mean, a lot of times we look for instant gratification when it comes to, how we feel and what's going on in life and situations. But just like over time and, things have happened to us, cause us to, feel the way we feel, it's going to take time for those things to, resolve itself. So sure that you understand that it's not going to always feel like you've forgiven someone, but guess what? You're working through it, you're processing through it, you're progressing through it. You are forgiving that person, even though when you may see that person, you may be like, you got to take a deep breath. But guess what? You're going to go through. Something else we have to understand is time doesn't heal all wounds, in my opinion. The active choice of forgiving wounds heals wounds. Again, I have, it's been years since I've seen a person or people who have done something to me. And when I see that, it's been years, and I see the person, I'm just like, something within me wants to be like, oh my gosh, like, here we go, but I still say that I forgive this person because I'm choosing to forgive this person. Even though it don't feel like it, I'm choosing to lay to rest what happened, which moves me into my next number of forgiveness doesn't excuse what they've done, but it only makes you feel better. We hear so many times that forgiveness is not for the other person, but it's for you. I agree as I'm going through this because if I let go of what you did to me, I can be in peace. I can feel no stress in my body, in my mind. I don't have to battle thoughts that come in my mind that want to, do some things. So forgiveness does a lot, but it doesn't excuse what they've done, but it truly, truly helps you to release and make you feel better. Forgiveness doesn't mean that you have to reconcile. Yeah, you ain't got to be friends with that person who you forgave. Let them go live their best life. Wish them the best. I'm glad for you. Peace be with you. Move on. You know what I'm saying? Take that attitude. You don't have to be friends with that person. I'm going to take it a little step further. You don't even have to like the person, in my opinion. You can love the person from a distance because, God calls us to love, but you don't have to like the person. It's certain things about their personality that just don't jive with you, or you don't jive with them, whatever it is. But that don't mean that you have to be liking the person in order to feel like you've forgiven the person. I struggle with that myself. Like, I know I've forgiven you for what you've done, but that don't mean I like you. Like, you need to stay over there. You need to stay over there, okay? And if I have to deal with you, I'll deal with you in a cordial manner, but that's it. That's all you're going to get. So, yeah. So another thing I learned is that I mentioned before, you have to, when dealing with forgiveness, you have to battle a lot of thoughts and things like that, negative thoughts, thoughts that bring you back to that scenario, back to that feeling, back to that place, that time. But when you're in the act of forgiving, you need to fight those thoughts. You need to fight the urge to ponder on those thoughts, to rehearse those thoughts in your mind. Because once you start going down that road, it just snowballs into something else. And then next thing you know, you create scenarios in your mind that didn't exist. Scenarios that didn't exist that lead you to further into unforgiveness. Okay? So you definitely want to be careful when you're going through the process of forgiving, that you know and understand that you must battle these thoughts. You must cast down imaginations and arguments that exalts itself against the knowledge of God. And yes, that's a scripture. You know, scriptures may not apply to you. You may not be a believer, but I am. So for me, what helps me is when I have negative thoughts that come to my head about the past, I immediately try to capture those thoughts and bring them unto submission to my own thoughts of positivity. You know, making sure that they don't exalt themselves in my mind, that I'm focusing on those thoughts constantly. You know, so I capture them and then I replace them with something better. You know, whether it's I gotta reframe my whole attitude, my whole thought process around it, or if I just need to think about something different. Whatever I gotta do. But you don't allow those thoughts to just take over and create and rehearse and keep repeating itself in your mind. That's a no-no. That's what you don't do. Then another thing I learned is, I kind of mentioned it already, but the sting of the offense will dissipate over time. Not necessarily the memory of what has happened, which it will never do unless you get amnesia. You know, I don't get amnesia. I'm still gonna remember what happened, but I don't allow the sting of what happened still affect me. So it does dissipate over time. So that's good news, you know, when you're in the process of actively trying to forgive someone or some people who may have hurt you in the past. So yeah, that's good news. My last tip is probably one of the most important things that I've actually learned recently. And I learned this being in a group of women, being surrounded by a group of women who was in an act of trying to get their freedom. You know, we were in a class called Freedom, and loved the class, beautiful class. But one of the women said that stuck with me and stuck with all the women was, you are only as healed as you are honest. So when you take the time and you truly be honest about yourself, the situation, what occurred, all of the, you know, little things and details of it, when you truly be honest about your part you have played, or you may not have played. It could just be people are haters. It happens, you know, people are haters. But when you're honest about it, then you can totally work through that process of healing and forgiving that person. But you have to start with being honest about what you've done that may have contributed, even though it may be minor, or it may be major. Just be thoroughly honest with yourself. And again, you're only as healed as you are honest. So that's another tip. So those are some of the things that I personally have learned when it came to forgiveness and forgiving other people and things of that nature. But I did look up on ChatGPT what are some advantages and disadvantages of forgiveness. So I just want to kind of list those things out for you, so you know, can have a better understanding as well from a AI point of view. So number one is An advantage is it gives you emotional relief, reduces your feelings of anger and resentment and stress. Lord have mercy, I'm a testimony of that. Like when you're full of unforgiveness and you have issues with people, it leaves something in your body that's just undesirable. It just brings a lot on you and causes unnecessary stress within yourself that you just don't need. It's not healthy for you. So definitely letting go of that will propel you into your best future, your best life ever. So definitely an advantage is receiving emotional relief. So number 2 is improved mental health. It helps you to combat depression, anxiety, anger. It helps you to combat a lot of things. So definitely mental health increases when you are in a state of forgiveness. Better physical health. I mean, you just feel better when you don't have that stress on your life. I mean, you just feel absolute, like a weight has been lifted. Your mental stability. Sometimes you may get a fog in your brain when you start walking in forgiveness and living in forgiveness. It clears it up. Like you don't have to have this foggy brain anymore. At least for myself, because I know when I was going through things, it felt like there was a wall, like boop, like right here, right here. And so once I started to let go of a lot of things, child, I felt a whole lot better. And even with the physical health, I mean, your vitals start getting better. Your blood pressure gets better. The physical, the physiological things that goes on in your body start to, act better. You might even have better digestion, child. I mean, forgiveness can do a lot because your body is more free. It is open. It can flow better. You're not all tense and stuck up and all that stuff, So yeah, physical health is definitely improved when you are in a state of forgiveness. Other thing is personal growth. I mean, it emphasizes that you experience more compassion toward others, empathy toward others. I mean, you can put yourself in other people's position that way. You can see from their point of view. You don't have to be so judgmental when you are walking in forgiveness. So there's so many things that can improve when you choose to forgive. Definitely spiritual growth. I mean, if you're a spiritual person in the sense of you believe in God, you believe in Christianity. I'm just going to speak on Christianity. There's a lot of other things going on out there, but that's not my concern. I'm only going to speak on Christianity when it comes to forgiveness. In order to be forgiven, we must first also forgive. I mean, because let me correct that. God first forgave us. So therefore, as a result of our love and appreciation and gratitude toward Him, we must also forgive other people who do us wrong. I mean, God, look at Jesus. I mean, He forgave the whole world. Okay? The least we could do is forgive someone who hurt us in our past. Yes, I'm not saying it's going to be easy. It's going to be difficult. It's hard. I said easier said than done. Trust me, I know. But it's possible. It's possible. And if you have that hope and faith for possibilities that all things are possible, you can have it. You can have forgiveness. Okay, so that's enough of that for the advantages. There's even more advantages, but we're going to get into some disadvantages. And it's starting with perceived weakness. I guess the definition of that is others may perceive it as you're condoning bad behavior. But in actuality, you're not condoning bad behavior. You're showing that in spite of the bad behavior, I can rise above it and let go of that bad behavior toward me for the sake of me, for the sake of me, and for the sake of you too, but really truly for the sake of me. So you're not condoning it. You're not saying, hey, it's okay that you did this to me. No one believes that. I mean, truthfully, no one believes that if you choose to forgive someone. Others may perceive it as that, but who cares? You're doing this for you. So, yeah. Another disadvantage is if you are forgiving someone and you don't put up boundaries, you can find yourself in that predicament again. So that's something that you definitely want to be mindful of. That's a disadvantage that you definitely want to make sure that when you forgive someone, you are also putting up boundaries with that person to say, hey, no longer will I tolerate this from you because I don't do this to you, so you therefore would not be doing this to me. You want to give respect, you're going to show some respect. So yeah, you must put up some boundaries as well. Others may try to misuse your trust. They may say, hey, since you forgave me this time, I can still do what I did before and you're going to forgive me again. But no, ma'am. That's called boundaries, as we just mentioned. You're not gonna act that way to me again. I let you have it once. I gave you that one. But no, we're gonna put up boundaries and we're gonna move forward. There are many, many, many more advantages and disadvantages of both. But I think I've given you enough to kind of have an understanding of forgiveness and why it's actually a powerful thing if you choose to do so. And I recommend that you do, okay, for your own sake. And again, re-emphasizing, it's not easy. I'm going to continually say that because I myself know it to be true. But it's possible. And once you get there, then you can live a life of freedom. You can live a life of enjoyment. I mean, you can let go of all the BS, So hopefully you've learned some things that will help you, that if you're in a journey of forgiving someone, you can take a look at this video and be like, yeah, I kind of agree with that. Yeah, let me implement that into my life. So yeah, let me have that state of mind so I can move forward, because honestly, none of this is worth it. Yes, what the people did was wrong, but guess what? They're not worth having any more time in your mind, in your health, in your life. They're not worth it. So you have to let it go. You have to forgive. You should forgive. I'm not telling you what to do because you're grown. You're grown. But I recommend it. And I'm a witness of it, and I'm in process of it. So what I'm saying to you, I'm also saying to me. I'm not going to tell you nothing. I'm not going to tell to me first. Okay? So with that being said, thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video. All right. Bye-bye.